Today is March 25th, 2026. My name is Calum. I am a student recruitment coordinator here at the college. Today, you guys are here to learn more about our grad certificates. I'm here with Dean and Michael. They're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the programs that they teach. And for the sake of today's session, you guys will remain muted and you will remain your cameras off. You are able to ask questions throughout the presentation, of course. You'll see the little question prompt at the bottom, so I'm gonna be monitoring those questions throughout. And for anyone that is watching it back, we are going to try our best to kind of cover full stack app development program, a grad certificate here at NSCC in IT programming for artificial intelligence. We're going to cover course materials, program details, anything that kind of, we're going to talk about what's on the website and then go a little bit beyond the website as well, since I do have the experts here with me today to teach the programs. So feel free to ask questions throughout. And again, thank you for joining us today, March 25th, 6 p.m. here in Nova Scotia. It snowed in the morning and brought a beautiful sunny day in the afternoon. So kind of a typical Nova Scotia day. How are you guys doing? Good?
Doing great.
We're awesome. Yeah, so again, if you guys are on to ask questions, we got it here. And I'm going to monitor that throughout. So if you have questions, we're going to try our best to kind of talk about all the topics that we need to. And if you guys have questions, feel free to pop them in, and I'm going to monitor the chat as we go. I'm going to start off with just some land acknowledgements. NSCC is located in Mi'kmaq, the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based off a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown dating back to 1725. As a treaty beneficiary, we recognize that we are all treaty people. Of course, we're going to recognize our African Nova Scotians as a distinct group who arrived over 400 years ago, and from that time on, they've contributed to the infrastructure and economic wealth of towns and cities to help build, which they did not benefit from. So let us learn more about our respective communities and how they were shaped by our historical contributions of African Nova Scotians in the Mi'kmaq. Again, our presenters, so we have Mike here with us to talk about full stack app, and we have Dean here with us to talk about IT programming. Today's programs that we're going to talk about, just for the sake of it, for those who are not familiar with Nova Scotia, or maybe their first time coming to Nova Scotia, we are located down here at IT campus, Institutional of Technology campus, that is in Halifax. So NSCC has 13 campuses physically across the province. The two programs that we're going to talk about specifically are located in Halifax. So if you're looking to study and you're coming from out of the province or the country, you're going to find yourself in the heart of Halifax. I will mention a little bit about student housing. This is a campus that doesn't offer student housing, but there will be student housing in the form of community. You can reach out to Facebook groups, or you can find student housing if you're looking for housing in Nova Scotia. It is a bit difficult, but with the help of our social media platforms, our website, we do have some folks who work for NSCC and can help navigate folks who are looking to secure some student housing while they're here. So we'll dive right into it. So full stack app development. And just to mention, two of my experts I have, Dean and Mike, are both familiar with both programs hand in hand, have a number of experience working with the program. So feel free again to ask any and all, and we'll try our best to debunk or answer any of the questions you guys have. All right, who wants to start us off?
Yeah, I'll talk about full stack. So essentially what we've done at the college with the full stack application development program is we've taken our 2-year IT web programming diploma, and we've concentrated it down into 1 year. And we're offering it to students who have previous degrees or diplomas from university or college. It doesn't have to be a technical discipline. Technical discipline would be nice. It would be nice to have some previous, computing or programming background, but we don't expect it and we don't require it. So the very first days when you're taking the course in September, we will start with an introduction to computer programming course, and we'll kind of walk you through getting up to speed with the technology. And essentially, as I said, we compressed the 2-year program on web programming into 1 year. We will focus on front-end development, back-end development, everything you need to be able to develop websites, working for a company or working on your own as like a freelancer, and we do it within 1 year. So that's kind of the motivation for the course, is to take our 2-year program and concentrate it down into 1 year for folks who already have a degree or a diploma in a particular discipline. Because we concentrated into 1 year, we tend to move pretty quickly. We have a lot to cover in the 8 months between September and April. We tend to focus in on particular technologies. We tend to stick with what we would term like one stack or one suite of tools in terms of what we're going to use to build our websites. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the idea is, again, to kind of condense and distill down the 2-year program into a 1-year delivery. And so you just need a 2-year degree from a community college or a bachelor's degree from a university. And again, it could be any discipline, and that's what you need to get into the 1-year graduate certificate. We still have the 2-year program, the 2-year IT web development program. More, maybe you could think of it more for folks coming out of high school into that, but that's still available to be, that you can sign up for, but it would go at a slightly more leisurely pace than we do in the 1-year graduate certificate.
Yeah, we did have a question come in already, if that's all right, and it's not about full stack, it's about IT program, and they asked if they could get into the program with a Bachelor of Finance, kind of what you guys talked about.
Not the AI program. The AI program requires a technical discipline of some sort, engineering or computer science, or maybe GIS or something like that you would need for the AI program. For the full stack program, we accept any diploma, any degree.
All right, moving right along.
So when we talk about full stack development, what are we really talking about? We're saying that when you build a website, an enterprise level website, there is a suite of tools that is used to produce that website. Some of them are very visual, and you will see in the web browser. These are technologies like cascading style sheets that control the color and the font and the size of text on your website. But we also go right down to the information that's on a website, which is stored in maybe a database on what we would call the back end. So typically in web development, you have back end programmers who are working on the web server and the database, and you have front end programmers who work in HTML and CSS and JavaScript and control how the site actually looks in the web browser. But when we do full stack development, we're saying you're going to do it all, and you're going to learn it all. You're going to be able to work on the front end. You're going to be able to work on the back end. You're going to be able to integrate the two pieces together, and you're going to understand all the technologies that are being used. So essentially, a full stack web developer is just a multi-purpose web developer who can work on any aspect of the software. So here's kind of a breakdown on this slide. It kind of shows you up at the top, we're talking more of the what we say the front end or the client side, which is what the user sees in the web browser. And we go all the way down the stack to the server that's running an operating system that has web server software running on it that talks to a database. All of that is what we refer to as the back end. So if you looked at the image on the left side of the slide, we'd kind of draw a line through the internet, and on the top of that line, we would call it front end development, and on the bottom of that line, we would call it back end development. And as I'm saying, in our program as full stack developers, we're going to show you it all. You're going to have classes in front-end development, classes in back-end development, and you're going to see how all these technologies work together. And that's what we refer to as the stack. Generally, every website you interact with on the internet is an entire suite of tools that are being used to develop that website. From the hardware of the web server where it runs on, right up to your web browser, Edge or Safari or Chrome, whatever you're using on your computer to interact with that website. And we're going to walk you through all of those technologies that are being used, and you'll be able to work and develop on both sides. Some of our graduates will get hired by smaller companies, or maybe they're working on their own as freelancers, and maybe they're working on the entire stack. Other of our students might get hired as a front-end developer for a company or a back-end developer for a design company, and they'll focus and they'll narrow in on one of the aspects. But we're training you in the whole thing is the point.
Okay.
So this gives you a breakdown of the courses you would have in the program. Semester 1 is the fall semester, so that's from September to December. Then you have semester 2, or winter semester, from January to April. And then at the end of April and into May, we have a third semester that's only 5 weeks long. That is your work experience, which you can see it says 175 hours there in semester 3. That's considered like 5 35-hour weeks of actually working for a company and getting work experience to put your practical skills to use. So in terms of semester 1, the fall semester, you can see right at the very top, you got server-side programming. And if we go down kind of to the middle, you'll see front-end web programming there. Well, you get the idea. We're going to be teaching you the front end and the back end right from the beginning of the program. And as you get more into second semester, you'll start pulling those skills together and start actually deploying large-scale websites for particular clients or projects that you're working on in second semester. In first semester, we're mostly teaching you the pieces, and you start putting those pieces together in second semester. The other thing I'll say is first semester tends to be a lot of individual work. You'll have an assignment in your front-end development class to build a website. You'll do your own HTML and CSS coding, whatever. In second semester, you'll a lot of the time be working in group projects, in teams, and we'll teach you how to work collaboratively. And again, you'll be bringing together a lot of the skills from first semester. But if you want to take a look at the courses in first semester, we have server-side programming as a 60-hour course. That actually, we teach that course in the second half of first semester. First half of first semester is the course that's down at the bottom, Programming Fundamentals, which you start right in September, taking that course for 2 months, and then you do your server-side programming for November and December. So those 2 classes are what we call modularly delivered, which is one's in half of the semester and one's in the other half. But the good news, again, with that last course, Programming Fundamentals, we don't expect you to have programmed before. If you have written computer programs before in any language, well, that's a bonus. It's nice to have programming experience, but we don't require it. So in September, you would walk into that Programming Fundamentals course and you'd see how to write simple applications in JavaScript and learn basic computer programming before you get into like the more advanced server-side programming course. What else do you get first semester? You get, well, there's the 2 safety courses in WMIS and OH&S. Those are courses you take early in September, online mostly. They only take a couple hours. But if we jump down to the middle of the first semester, you can see you have a fairly large class, 10 credits, 150 hours in front-end programming. And that's where we're going to teach you how to build websites that look good in the browser. We're going to teach you HTML, CSS, client-side JavaScript, and maybe client-side JavaScript frameworks like Vue or later on React. And you're going to have that course all semester long. So it's not divided into half semesters. That's a full semester course. You have a course in database and systems. Any web programmer has to be able to talk to databases. So we're going to teach you how relational databases work, maybe how non-relational NoSQL databases work as well, and how you can store and retrieve data from there. That'll be important for your back-end course. We'll teach you a little bit of operating systems to the extent that you need to be able to navigate the web server. It might be running on Linux, so maybe you need to learn a few Linux commands and those kind of things. Then you have a 30-hour course, which only meets once a week, in user experience fundamentals. That's really the only design or sort of graphic design sort of aspect of the course. One important thing I need to let you know about the full stack program is we're programmers, we're developers, we're coders. We're not necessarily designing backgrounds in Photoshop. We're not designers. We usually implement a design that somebody else has given to us most of the time. And we're the technical people that make that work. So we're the mechanics. We're not the folks designing the car, if you want to think of it that way. But we do give you a 30-hour course, so it meets once a week in user experience design, and talk a little bit about making your websites accessible for folks who have, maybe vision impairment and those kind of things. And we'll talk about designing websites, but we're not focused on web design. It's very important you understand the college has a graphic design program for folks who have more of a design interest. We're developers. So we just get a little bit of design, enough that, we're competent with it, but it's not our focus. So that pretty much takes us through first semester. Second semester, you can see a big course up at the top called Full Stack Programming. And that's where I'm saying everything starts to come together from first semester. We taught you front-end development, we taught you back-end development first semester. Now we put things together. You're going to use the full stack. Typically in that course, as I said, because we're a one-year program, we can't teach you 3 or 4 different back-end programming languages. We don't have time for it. So we're not going to do a little PHP, a little ASP.NET, a little Ruby on Rails or something. We tend to focus in on JavaScript. We'll use Node and Express as our back-end technology. We will generally use the MERN stack, which is Mongo, Express, React, and Node. We're generally JavaScript all the time. But that course will bring together your front-end and your back-end programming course. Notice another big course, that's 10 credits, 150 hours, meets every day, 5 times a week for 2 hours, and it's all semester long. Then you've got a testing and security course where we'll teach you how to secure your website. Very, very important. We can't build websites that are easily hackable. We need to, they're on the internet. Everyone can access them. We can't have folks hacking our website. So security, very important to us as web programmers. So you get a course in that. You also, and we combine a little unit testing and test-driven development, those kind of things while we're doing that course. You've got a 30-hour course in career development. So that's like helping you prepare your portfolio, your resume, and get ready for the job search. You have a course in collaborative tools, which is one of those courses where I say we bring things together in second semester and tend to do large group projects where you'll work in a team. You'll understand how to use like source control or version control, like GitHub, in a team environment. You'll learn how to you know, like make a pull request when you make a change, and branch, and you're in source control when you work on a feature, and those kind of things. So we teach you how to work in a team in that course, and then we put you in a big team and give you a project to work on. So, and also the first course that was back up at the top, the full stack programming course, that's also taught with a lot of group work and putting you in large teams and working collaboratively. And then the last course in the second semester is kind of an interesting course because we condensed everything down into 1 year and we moved so fast and we focus in on just JavaScript. There might be some gaps in terms of what your employer wants when you go out and look for a work experience. Maybe they have a back end that's written in PHP, or maybe their website is developed in WordPress or something that we haven't covered in one of our core classes. You get a class at the very end where you get to pick a technology that we have not covered and go off and learn it on your own. We give you structure around that and time around that, but we really encourage students to tie that to, hopefully they've found a work experience by that point. So maybe something their employer uses in terms of a database or programming language that we didn't cover in the program. And it gives you a chance to go off and learn that yourself with structure and everything provided by us. And then third semester is that 5-week work experience, which I talked about. Very important you understand our work experiences, you have to find them yourselves. We don't do work placement. We don't, like, I don't walk into class and say, you 3 students are going to Red Space and you 2 are going to CGI. We, in our programs in the IT, and this will be true of Dean's program as well, we don't place students with, you have to find your own work experience opportunities. We tell you when IBM posts a co-op opportunity, we let the students know, but it's your job to apply and send in a cover letter and a resume and find an employer for your work experience. And that's that 5 weeks for the third semester.
Great, that's a question that we have, that we get often in the admission team. I guess I would say folks are wondering, are you guys going to place us somewhere? Are you guys going to get a job for us or for that work term? And it's kind of throughout our whole, the college itself, it's on the onus and it's the responsibility of the student. And as you guys mentioned, you've been doing this for a number of years, so I know you have, you guys can be good references if you have some students in your class who are doing good work, obviously. But again, on the onus of the student to find on their own with the assistance of your classmates, of your instructor.
And it does get a little confusing at the college sometimes because there are programs at the college that do work placements, like actually taking a group of students and matching them up with an employer. But we don't in the IT program because we've also got the 2-year programming stream, we've got the 2-year web programming stream, and a lot of these folks are going for similar jobs with similar companies. So we can't really provision it that way where 3 students in one particular class get lined up with one employer. But yeah, so we do work experience, but we don't do work placements.
Wonderful. We did have a question come in, and I know the answer to it, but I'll let you answer. Does the full stack course include mobile applications?
We do cover it a little bit. So while we're doing the full stack application and we're doing React on the front end, we will cover a little bit React Native, which is a technology you can use to develop mobile applications, but it is not the focus of the program. It's just sprinkled in a little bit. We will cover, even in first semester, how to build a website that displays well on mobile device. There's no point in building a website these days just for desktops. More people are going to visit your website on a mobile device than on a full desktop screen like I have over here. So we start off right from the beginning doing what we call responsive design and learning how to build websites that look good on different screen sizes. But in terms of focused building mobile apps, about the only bit is a little bit of React Native sprinkled into the second semester. It is not a focus of the program. However, if you wanted to do a little bit more of that, that would be a good candidate. I encourage some of our students right now to do mobile development as their skills exploration. And they're doing things like React Native or Flutter or whatever it happens to be as their extra skills that they're covering.
Right. Okay, gonna keep on keeping on.
So yeah, we can just go to the next slide, which has a typical week up there. This is taken from our schedule this year from September. So be aware your classes will change in November actually, because we have half semesters. But this gives you an idea of how things would look in September. And you see how you have, oh, actually, I guess I did refer to November because I have the server-side programming down there kind of in the half blocks with programming fundamentals. So you folks would be taking programming fundamentals in September and October, and then in November and December, that class would switch to server-side programming. But you get the idea of how the classes are laid out. I will let you know that Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are fully online. Our program is blended. We're in person 3 days a week. We're totally online 2 days a week. And for us, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. So your entire day on Tuesday and Thursday, fully remote. We expect you to be home and connecting to your class, just like you're joining this meeting today. We'd be using Microsoft Teams, different software, but you'd be doing it through video conferencing software on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you'd be in person. So wherever you see office hours there, that's office hours for faculty. You would not have classes, so you would have some time off on those days. Generally 3 afternoons off in your schedule in full stack, unless something massive changes next year. But this is a typical view of what your schedule would look like.
Wonderful. And again, like you mentioned, always subject to change from year to year. This is not exact. This is just to give you an idea. Right.
We tend to focus on practical, pragmatic, hands-on learning. The way I always say it to students is we try to teach IT the same way we teach auto mechanics or carpenters or trades. You're hands-on in a lab, working on machinery with the instructor kind of guiding and mentoring you. We try to teach that way in IT as well. So it's less us talking for 2 hours and then you repeating that information on a test or a big exam. It's more us talking for a short time and saying, okay, now here's an activity or something to do, and go off and do some coding. And us coming around the room and helping people who are running into problems. So we really focus on giving you a lot of hands-on practical things to do, and we're helping you do them, essentially, as opposed to more of a university, 2 hours of theory, and there's going to be a test on this next week. In terms of what equipment you need for the program, you'll see on the right side, that's about the only textbook we have left. We still use, there's an HTML CSS textbook that's pretty good, and we use that in the front-end development course. But that should be the only textbook in the entire program. Pretty much everything else, it's online tutorials and courses and documents that we would have that we cobble together from multiple different sources. So there's not a lot of textbooks in the program. In terms of hardware, well, I might give you the advice that the program tends to go better and more smoothly if you have a laptop, because the benefit there is you can install your software on your laptop, you take it home, you work on the same machine. So you don't have to worry about doing a lab machining class and then get home and now you're on another physical computer when you're doing your homework. Maybe you don't have the right software. Also, our building tends to be very full. There's classes in every room We've got a few computers up in the library, but it can be hard if you're between classes or if you happen to be at the campus on one of our online days. It can be hard to find a place to work. But if you have a laptop, we got wireless throughout the building. So the benefit is you could sit down anywhere and work on your homework as opposed to having to find a physical machine. It can be very hard to find an empty classroom, is my point, because we tend to be very full at the campus and the building, and the rooms are fully booked almost all day long. So that can be a challenge. So if a student's thinking, do I need a laptop? I recommend you have one if you can, because it just makes the program easier. And then you can work anywhere. And once we have your laptop working, we know it'll work at home. You're taking the same machine home with you. Alternately, we have had students go through the program without a laptop. They've worked on the lab machines and then they set up the software on their home computer. In that case, we would certainly recommend, and you notice on the left side of the slide, an external drive that can save all your files and you can just take them with you from one place to the next. Yeah, so not a lot of heavy duty requirements either. Like I would say any modern well-spec'd laptop would pretty much suit you. Maybe the requirements a little higher in the AI program. Dean will talk about that a little bit because they have to build models and they have a lot of heavy intensive, but in web development, not a lot really. We don't run a ton of different software. We'll run one development environment, a couple browsers, but not any modern laptop can pretty much handle what we do in our program.
And let's say a student has a MacBook versus a Dell or Mac. Does that really, are some more compatible with others?
I would say for the students who have MacBook, we've had tons and tons of students go through the program with Macs, and it's perfectly fine. We can get everything to work. They have to do a little more work because very often we are demoing things as faculty members in a Windows environment. So they'll have to figure out how to get that running on Mac, and we'll help with that for sure. But there might be a little more work to do, but certainly you can go through our program with a good MacBook.
Good to know.
We say you really should view it as like an 8:30 to 5:30 job each day. So I did mention you had 3 afternoons off a week, but if you think of it as 8:30 to 5:30, 5 days a week, you might be able to get your homework done in that time and not have to go home with such a crushing load of homework every night. We recommend as a general guideline to consider as much homework as we have class time. You folks will have, I think it's 24 hours a week in class, so that would mean 24 hours of homework on top of that. So it's nice to use those 3 afternoons off if you just stay at the campus and work. Then you can maybe go home without a heavy workload of homework to do. But yeah, a general guideline to consider is as much homework as you have class time in our programs. Also, I would say in terms of the middle question there, am I able to work part-time? Our general advice to folks is no more than 20 hours. Because again, if you think of 24 hours of class time, 24 hours of homework, hard to go above 20 hours of work on top of that and actually, you know, have a family life and be able to maintain that work-life balance and all that. So we really don't recommend working full-time while taking the program.
Good to know.
I will say that right now there is a bit of a transition in IT as a whole, beyond just web development in particular, and that's with the addition of AI toolkits and folks doing AI-assisted coding. That it's generally changed the job description a little bit and the nature of work that junior and entry-level programmers are getting. The idea is you'd less be, in the old days, you'd be writing maybe unit tests for code that had been written and deployed, but nobody had written tests for, or You'd be maybe cleaning up some existing code or adding comments to existing code as a junior developer as you worked your way into more of an intermediate role. A lot of that's been changing with AI being added now, and the nature of the job is changing. We're trying to keep the program fresh and responsive to that, and we're showing folks how to use AI coding assistants as they build their applications, and we're integrating that with the program. But the job, the industry is going through a bit of a transition period where we need to be responsive to the changes that are happening. There are still opportunities out there. Year to year, sometimes it's more large-scale design companies, our Verb Interactives or Red Spaces that are hiring our students. Sometimes it's more startups. The good thing about web development is almost every company has a web presence. There's a lot of non-traditional IT companies that hire our students. You could get hired on by a university, by a grocery store company like, say, Sobeys or Clearwater Seafoods or someplace like that. There's a lot of different jobs where you can get jobs as web developers, a lot of different companies, but we are in a transition period, and we've pretty much been in it ever since COVID in terms of the nature of what the job is. But it remains a high demand field. I just threw in a couple of group projects, but I don't think we'll have time to go through them right now. But just to be aware that I mentioned in second semester, we do these large group projects and we come together. We try to find actual clients, real world external clients for the students to work on. So in one example, they worked with a charity, the South Shore Open Doors Association, and built a website for them. In another case, we built it for a relative of one of the students. They have their own woodworking company. They do custom carpentry work, and we built them a website. But we try to find a real world client and to come together and work in a large team to actually build a website for somebody. So a lot of second semester work tends to be real world practical projects, working in teams on them. And the benefit is, even if it's a charity that couldn't hire you later, they become a nice reference client that you can use when you're actually doing the job hunt, and they'll be a nice reference for you. So that's a nice benefit.
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to, so these links actually were in the communication we sent out afterwards. I can link these in there as well if you guys want, or you screenshot them and take a look for yourself as well. All right, I think we're going to jump into IT program. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that. We're going to jump right into IT programming for AI.
Hey folks, my name's Dean. Nice to meet you all virtually. I teach an IT programming for AI program. I teach 3 of the courses, and actually Michael, who's with us and just talked about full stack, he teaches the other 2. So your 2 teachers for AI happen to be here together. So, and I actually teach one course, the testing and security, in full stack. So we have some overlap in these 2 programs. Can I move these slides, or do you do it, Kalen?
I got you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So one of the things to notice about this program, obviously, it's artificial intelligence. So AI is an important component, a core component of the program, but it is IT programming for AI. And so we're still doing programming. We're still building applications, but we're building applications that leverage techniques from artificial intelligence. And so artificial intelligence is kind of a loaded term now. It means an awful lot of things. Some people think of like robotics or something like that. What we focus on is what you're probably familiar with, like LLMs, like using chatbots. Imagine interacting with something like that, understanding how it works. And there's a lot of other aspects of AI that we don't see even in the news yet, or they're not as easy to promote, let's put it that way, more mathematical. So we also learn some of that, like machine learning, things that they're really useful, a little more mathy than some of the other aspects of programming. And so we focus on learning to program with sort of that specialty. of AI. Our requirements are pretty much the same as for full stack, and that's going to be true all the way through. This program is very similar in structure to the full stack program. It's a grad cert. It has similar sort of schedule every day. You have same size length of courses. We teach them in the same way. We try not to be too heavy on theory. We give you a little lecture and we get you doing stuff right away. So all that stuff's kind of the same. One little tweak is that we do want you to have some kind of a sciencey background. Someone mentioned finance, and we don't normally accept finance. You can see what it says here: information technology, computer science, engineering, and sciences like geographic sciences. We did have someone this year who was from environmental sciences. And they applied and they kind of made a case for themselves. So if you were in finance, I suppose if you had a lot of math and you'd done some programming, you can give it a shot. Like, it doesn't immediately, it says or related field. So you'd have to make an argument, and it would depend on what courses you have. But generally speaking, you want to come into this being a little more comfortable with a bit of math and hopefully having seen a bit of programming.
I do have a question that came in that kind of fits. Someone had asked if they studied telecommunication engineering in university.
Absolutely, that fits because we have I have a telecommunications engineer in my class right now who worked for Ericsson. So we almost always have electrical engineers, and we almost always have computer science students, and we usually have an assortment of math students, physics students, chemistry students, other science backgrounds.
Okay, forgive me because I don't know what this means, but he said he wants to lean more towards, or he or she, whoever it is, wants to lean more towards LLMs in work and the potential of AI.
Yeah, so that's what we focus on. So right now, for instance, my students are entirely focused on LLMs in one of my courses, neural networks, where we're looking at they're doing fine tuning and ragging and the kind of techniques, if you're surfing YouTube, you're going to see a lot about. So basically, we work on the kind of things that like a startup in AI would want you to know about. A lot of startups in AI are using LLMs behind the scenes. That's really what they're doing, and we just take it a little step farther. So any programmer can, let's say from full stack, they learn a bit of AI, so they could do a lot of this stuff. We just take them a little further in this program, where they understand a bit more of the underpinnings and how everything works, and they get more experience with it, so that you get less programming experience than you would from full stack and more focus on the AI. But hopefully you come into this program with a little more programming aptitude or that kind of background with the engineering, and so we go a little faster on the programming and we go more deep dive and thorough on the AI, and of course we focus on things that are the hottest in the industry. Our goal is to get you a first job doing something like that, so we really focus on what we think employers most want, and we talk to employers, they tell us what they want. So artificial intelligence, just what the heck is artificial intelligence? Well, artificial just means it's not natural somehow. It's made by us, made by humans, and intelligence is just what we think of as intelligence, the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. But basically, this can be done in a whole bunch of ways. You can make artificial intelligence, and maybe we'll go to the next slide. You can make artificial intelligence just by doing regular programming, where you interface with a database and you make something appear to be quite intelligent, because you can ask it a lot of questions and it can act like an expert system. For instance, it can know an awful lot about medicine because it can search through a database of medical journals or something like that. That would already be considered artificial intelligence. So anytime you're attempting to make a computer act a bit like we do, you're doing artificial intelligence. And then there's different ways that you can pull that off. And one of the core ways is machine learning, and that's where we don't try to tell the computer exactly what to do. Instead, what we do is we set up a framework and we try to teach the computer, and that's why it's called learning. So it's machine learning. We still have to do plain old programming, where we create some code that understands how to learn, which sounds kind of fancy, and it is kind of fancy, I guess, but you understand how to learn, and then we feed data in it. And just like the way you would teach a child how to tie their shoes, you say, hey, you got to put the loop like this. We tell the machine, hey, you got to do that. It tries something, and we tell it how well it did it. Yeah, that was a good job, but you want to go a little more to the right, or that was a good guess at what this value might be, but actually it's a little higher than that. And we kind of teach it over time, and it adjusts what it's doing, and that's machine learning. So that's our focus. We don't focus on the big broad range, even though it's called AI. We focus in on the machine learning aspect, and in particular, the type of stuff like LLMs and generative AI that you've seen, like Sora or something like that, although I heard Sora is being retired today. So anyways, but generative AI where you make videos, you make images, or you might have heard of like reinforcement learning where like an AI can play a video game or something like that. That is more in the focus of deep learning. And deep learning is just a way of doing learning where we take inspiration from the brain. Okay, the way that our brains actually work. And so the typical deep learning neural networks they just have a little bit of the flavor of how our brains actually work. Okay, they don't emulate it that much, but most of our focus in the program is on classical machine learning and even more so on deep learning. Okay, and this is important, I've already made this point, but the starting point is the very beginning. So even though we expect you to come in with a bit of math knowledge and a bit of programming knowledge, we're hoping that if you come in with that, you can handle the speed with which I introduce the basics, as an example. I'm not gonna sit there and handhold like I would in the 2-year programs and say, hey, a variable is a place that you did. I'm gonna tell you what a variable is, and then we're gonna move on. Variable has this type, here's how it works, here's a few of the control flow things, and then I get you working with it right away. Now, the majority of the class is going to already have done that, so I can move through it quickly. And if there happens to be, like in this class this year, we have one student who hadn't programmed before. It's our environmental engineer. It turns out he's a great programmer now. It's happened very quickly. He certainly caught on quickly, but he didn't know how to do that. So he's paying more attention. He's getting help from his classmates a little bit. And maybe asking me a few more questions at the beginning, but he was a very good student who had a solid engineering background, and so he could very quickly ramp up. And so that's why we ask for that prep. It's not so much that we expect you already know everything. You should have seen it before. If you've seen it before, it's a lot easier for us to go quicker. And if you at least have studied rigorous kind of difficult subjects at school, like engineering, that kind of difficult, the logic difficult, then you're going to be able to keep up with the pace. These are build slides. It's horrible. Okay, I'm joking. Okay, so the ending point, where we try to get you, so we start right at the beginning, but with you being able to handle the pace. And we always have in mind as an ending point, we want to get you the skills as quickly as we can. We have 8 months, and we want to take the optimal route from that beginning point to the point where we have more confidence you can get a first job in the software industry, hopefully doing something with AI. And the way it turns out, we have students. I was going to say I do, but I've got Mike here. Usually I'm on my own with a mic or whatever. So, but we do have students who end up working as AI engineers. We have a few who go straight into an AI engineering discipline. But a lot of times people will just go to a programming position, but where the company's interested in AI. And so the fact that you're good at AI sets you apart because they're thinking about it, you know? So the industry is going through a transition, but being in this program, you're bringing that knowledge and that potential to the company. And our goal is always, okay, how do we set you up so you can do what's currently happening? So you need to be able to do a bit of what we learn in full stack even. How do you do that, but at the same time, prepare you to be able to take them into AI or get an AI position? Yeah, so we can skip this. So basically the quickest route from learning to earning, that's kind of how we think about it. Like how do we take that? We're constantly tweaking that route. Mike and I sit down in the spring and we're like, should we tweak this class a bit? This got introduced. Did that really work well? We're always trying to clean things up to go faster and more efficiently. So next, I want to talk about our program content and structure, but not so much just the courses, but I want to talk about like the philosophy that went behind it and why we teach what we teach. So on the next slide here, I have the kind of picture that we have in our mind about what we need to teach you in order for you to be able to do AI programming. So at the bottom, now this might scare some of you, hopefully not, but we do have math and algorithms as a building block. Now, before you get too worried about it, we do very practical mathematics. So if you've done math in university and you've tried to learn linear algebra and you were scared by it, we do a bit of linear algebra, but I always have in mind that what I'm teaching you is the minimum you need in order to understand how it applies to a neural network. The minimum you need so that when you get an error out of like PyTorch or one of our libraries we use for building neural networks, and it mentions a matrix dimension mismatch or something, you'll know what that means. So it's not just a general let's learn math for the sake of learning math, and it's not a general learning algorithms for the sake of learning algorithms, although that part of it is maybe a little more like what you would get in university, because all of those algorithms happen to apply quite well. And they're also good just for general reasoning and for interviews and that sort of thing. But don't get too scared by the math. We take it slow. We teach it in a way that probably you haven't seen before. There's a lot of repetition, and there's a recognition that you're not going to sit down and have this incredibly hard math exam, okay? We don't do that. It's more, here's something I want you to go off and learn. I want you to watch this. I want you to get a good sense of how this basically works, okay? Then on top of that, I told you that when we're doing machine learning, we have to teach this program by showing it something. And what we show it is data, often labeled data, which means data where you give it an input, you ask it for an answer, and you have the label, which is the correct answer. So you know what it should have been. So like imagine having a whole bunch of pictures and you're trying to teach an AI how to recognize what kind of animal something is. Well, we would have data of all those pictures, and we would also know what animal it is in the data. So if it's a giraffe, it would have the word giraffe beside it. We send the giraffe in to our neural network. It comes out and says, I think it's a horse. And we go, close, but actually it was a giraffe. Could you do a little different next time? Could you tweak a few things such that you might get closer to a giraffe next time? And then we keep on going, and over time it does learn. So that data component is super important for machine learning and for AI in general. And it's so important that I don't teach it, Mike does, okay? So Mike teaches all the data stuff. And then on top of that, you need to know how to program. In order to build applications, remember, we're still doing IT programming for AI. So you got to build an application. We need to know how to program. The one difference here from say full stack is we focus on Python programming, which is really the programming language used most commonly when you're doing neural networks and machine learning. And then the second half of programming, we focus more on being able to make web apps and do the type of stuff you do in full stack. So you don't get much of it, but we give you a taste of both, okay? So that's your programming layer. Then of course, machine learning and neural networks, what I was just talking about, the core of AI. And then on top of that, employers really want you just to be knowledgeable about AI. You should be able to talk like intelligently about what's going on in the industry. What are the latest tools? What are some of the ethical concerns, right? What companies are involved? What new LLMs just came out? And you should be able to communicate well about that. And so topics in AI, which is also taught by Mike, is about that. Okay, so when you look at this stack, there's nothing you could leave out here. And yet it's a lot of material. So we got it down to the bare minimum. Are there other things we would like to do? Sure, but this is the core. You must do these things to be reasonably good at AI. Some people argued around the math and algorithms. We've proven in the last 2 years from the feedback we've gotten from our students who've gone out in the industry that it was vital, really important to have those two. The rest, there was never any argument. Everyone agrees on the rest of them. And so we've really established that this is what you need to know. And it's already a lot. So what we did was we chopped it up, put it into courses, and we do our very best to get you these core fundamentals in the class. Okay, so we can look at the next. This is not an updated set of courses, but it's close, okay? I was running a little bit short on time, so I apologize, but everything that we teach is in here. We've just restructured the way we teach the data courses a little bit, and maybe Mike could tell you, but it's not crucial, okay? So in first term, you get Programming for AI 1, which is basically Python programming. You get machine learning, which is getting introduced to how this kind of learning works, how you put data into this special kind of program and you teach it how to do something. And then you get your mathematics for AI, where you learn the underpinnings that neural networks are built upon. You get an intro to data from Michael, and you also get topics in AI, where you start to explore the field of AI. In second term, you go to Programming for AI 2. It sounds ridiculous in a way to say it, but it's almost like a mini full stack. So we took full stack, We made full stack from a 2-year program, and we made programming for AI 2 from a 1-year program. We had a course. But we do give you quite a good grounding there, and we rely on the fact that you have already seen a bit of programming and you're comfortable with going pretty quickly, and we try to get you as much as we can there. Now, the programming for AI 1, the Python, that actually does work for server side as well. So we can build on that, even though we were doing it mostly for the machine learning. Then we get our neural networks. That's when we get into our LLMs. That's when we learn CNNs, which is the type of architecture used for being able to do image recognition. We learn a little bit of reinforcement learning and all that kind of stuff, good stuff in neural networks. So that's a core course. And then mathematical programming and algorithms is where we do a deep dive on some of the stuff we did in math, but we learn how to do it in Python programmatically. And that reinforces and helps with the neural networks course. So it's not in isolation. They're always going in parallel. They all help each other. They all build on each other. So when we're in neural networks and we got to prep some data, well, Mike might be teaching them something about how to prep that data. So it all kind of works together. Then we have collaborative tools for application development is a course where you learn all the stuff that a developer needs to know, right? Like source code control and that sort of thing. Okay, so there's other tools when you're collaborating with other devs. So we need to get that in there. And then you get the second half of topics when you'll keep on going with topics and discussing the industry, what's going on, what new tech is coming out, and learning how to present on that in a reasonable way. All right, so that's our course lineup. Let's see what I had next. Okay, so I guess we're going into costing and stuff, but so maybe we'll just pop back and I'll say the last couple of things about the program.
We have someone have a question, if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Someone had asked if there's any material related to next-gen networking, 5G, 6G.
So we don't cover we don't do a deep dive into networking at all. So next-gen networking is not covered. But as an example, the kinds of things that could happen, like we have a communications engineer in the class. He's actually doing something, his own project related to communications networks, and he's thinking through how to do the customer support using AI, as an example. You could imagine if you are interested in analyzing network traffic, you might do a project in AI where you build an agent that's able to actually take in like a network traffic and analyze it and look for anomalous detection of anomalies or something like that. So if you're interested in 5G and you wanted to apply AI to it in some way, then that might happen in this class. But if you're interested in the actual building out networks and the hardware and the protocols, that would be more our systems and security 2-year program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or?
That's all for now.
Okay, so I just wanted to wrap up by saying we're constantly tweaking what we're doing. Not constantly, but we're trying to look at the industry's changing quickly. Mike mentioned that. Right now, there is a move towards English being the programming language, is the way some people will say it. There's a move towards using a lot of agentic AI, which just means, I told you that these AIs, you can get them to do something for you, right? Like for instance, coding. This is one of the most popular things they can do. So you can take an LLM, you can give it an English requirement, and it can spit out some code for you. And what's starting to happen now is that you can get it to do that for you when you're not sitting there anymore. So you can say, overnight tonight or in the next 20 minutes, could you go off and build something for me, and I'm going to go have a coffee, right? Now imagine scaling that to having about 8 of them going at once for one developer, and you open up the 8 windows and you've got them all doing things for you. It's like you're a software development manager and you have a staff. So the types of things that you do as a programmer in those, and when I say you do, we're all just learning this because literally it has happened in the last few months, certainly in the last year, but the speed with which we're moving to this system, some of you may have heard of things like OpenClaw or Claude Code, the speed with which programmers are moving to, number one, talking to their AIs instead of typing, and number 2, orchestrating a set of AIs to together perform some kind of actions that will in the end result in a product. That is accelerating at a massive speed. Now, the program we have teaches you all the underlying, well, not as much as we can, it teaches you the underlying fundamentals of how all of this is working. What it doesn't give you as much time to do is to practice with the tooling. given that the tooling is accelerating so quickly. So for instance, this spring, I'll be sitting down with Mike and we'll have this conversation. What can we do with the Programming for AI 1 and 2 such that we incorporate even more of something like Claude Code? So this is an evolving field, and what we're trying to do with this program is keep the fundamentals, but keep up to date with the latest and greatest things happening. And why? It's always the same thing, because we want you to get a job. We want you to get that first job. When you get that first job and you've got this, we gave you enough skills to get there, you'll learn on the job way more things from your fellow employees, from your boss or your mentor at the company. And that's how you'll evolve, and you'll figure out how to keep going with it. But the hard part is to have enough to get your foot in the door. And so our job is always to try to give you the foundations and to get you as up to date as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you get your foot in the door. And is it tough to learn all this in 8 months? Absolutely it is. But there are advantages. The biggest advantage is you only go to school for 1 year, so you don't miss out on 2 years of work, and you only pay for 1 year of tuition. So is there a downside that you might have to work your tail off a little bit to learn all this? Yeah, but there's a big upside on the other side too. So you have to consider that. You could go do a 2-year program and learn at a slower pace, or if you feel comfortable, you feel like you've got enough ability to learn reasonably quickly, then these are really a great deal for you, because they condense everything. There's no extra courses here. You're getting, we've already decided this is the bare minimum. We chopped it up and we're giving it to you, and we're evolving it. So that's my pitch for the program. Not exactly a pitch, but a differentiator between taking something like the 2-year program and taking one of our grad certs.
That's great. You guys have both been great at explaining the differences and what folks need to take before. Do you have students in your, I'm sure you have lots of students who have taken a course right at NSCC. Do you have any students currently enrolled that are graduating from a program for NSCC, hopping right into your IT programming for AI?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had 2 students last year from IT programming. I have 2 students this year from IT web. I'm looking at Michael virtually to see. I think it's 2. 2 come to mind, but it may be even more. And then we have a few from CS. We always tend to have computer science students from the local universities. In this case, we have 2 from universities in New Brunswick with CS degrees. And then of course we have lots of international students. We have 2 international students who are electrical engineers come to mind. We have our environmental engineer. He's an environmental engineering technologist from NSCC. Now he left NSCC and went and worked for a few years and is coming back, but that is his background.
And one thing I might add is in terms of existing NSCC 2-year students coming into our programs, if I had was talking to a 2-year student who was in an application development concentration, like they're a programmer or they're a web programmer, I would encourage them more towards the AI program than full stack. As I said, full stack was taking our 2-year web programming and concentrating it into 1 year. So clearly a 2-year web programmer, there would be a lot of redundancy in taking our full stack program. But that person would do very well and have a lot of interesting new material in the AI program. Also, our 2-year programming stream also has a fair bit of redundancy with full stack. I'd probably encourage them more towards AI. But if it was a non-programming 2-year, like cybersecurity or systems or database administration, well, they could do either one. But for a programmer, I'd probably point them more towards the AI program.
Okay, good to know.
And I'll say that the IT programmers I've had in the class and the web programmers, they've done very, very well in the graduate certificate for AI. They've been among the top students, I think, consistently.
We had a question come in just about classroom size. I know it's a bit different for our grad certificates, but they wanted to know about the grad certs and the 1- and 2-year programs in the IT fields? Like, what does a typical classroom size look like?
So generally it's different with grad certs. We've capped them at 20 students, where the 2-year program, I'm pretty sure, is at 25. So it's there can be more students in the 2-year program, but we capped the graduate certificates at 20.
Okay, so around 25 for the.
And depending on how the wait list works and who actually accepts their invitations to the program, and that, it might be a little less than 20, but it would be somewhere in the teens up to 20.
Okay. And this is a question I have for Dean. I mean, of course, you guys are both qualified. What are your thoughts in terms of using AI tools for programming and writing code for coursework? Is it not allowed, discouraged, etc.?
Oh, so you, in my class, you have to. So it's probably very different. What I'm trying to train people to do is 2 things, right? So we're in programming for AI. I'm trying to teach you enough so that you know what to ask the AI to do. And when we get to the point that you know what to ask the AI to do and you know how to evaluate the results, then I don't want you programming on your own very much at all. So right now, my students are encouraged to entirely, as they call it, vibe coding is kind of the word. I really encourage them not to type codes in themselves anymore. I don't, and I don't think they should. So it's not considered cheating in my class, and it won't be very long before it's not considered cheating anywhere. It's quite the opposite. If you're not good at getting good results out of an LLM, coding LLM, then you're falling behind. Because that's how programming is done now, and it's shifting pretty quickly. But that doesn't mean that you won't go to an interview at a local company and they will ask you in the interview to write code, not using an LLM. And so we're in a transition zone where you still need to know your Python and your JavaScript. And I still want my students, and I know Mike does, we want our students to be really, really good at that. But once they're really good at it, we don't want them to do it anymore. So it's kind of a funny situation to be in. But it would be similar to you want to run an advertising agency, but you need to be really good at writing ad copy yourself before you know who to hire and to ask to do it. So once you're good at it, then you might not do it anymore. You'll evaluate how well your employees are doing it. You'll hire employees who can do it well. That's kind of more the model. So absolutely in my class, and I'm sure in Mike's, you'll be vibe coding. We encourage it. It is not cheating. It is the tool that we want you to use.
And Dean really hit the nail on the head there, which is we need you to know enough to know what to tell the AI to do. So for example, today I was using Google Copilot. I was using Claude to do some coding, and I said, okay, take this file and please make sure you add unit tests to it. And then the AI went out and wrote unit tests, and then I said, okay, what's our code coverage? And code coverage, for anyone who isn't aware, is like a measure of how many lines of your code have a test written for it. And of course, you want to get to like 100%. You want all of your code to be thoroughly tested, right? But I knew enough to ask for that. I knew enough to say, okay, well, what's our code coverage now? And it gave me a report of the different files and how many unit tests. So we still need to teach you a testing course. Even if AI is writing the unit tests, we need you to understand things like what is a unit test? What is code coverage? And those kind of things to be able to ask the AI to go out and do those things.
I'm just going to transition into a little bit of the admission side of things, and then we're going to wrap it right up here, folks. Appreciate you guys. So yeah, for our full-time grad certificate, we're asking $5,540. Those are for domestic students, of course. And more details are on our website about the fees and where that money is actually going, if folks want to check that out. Our bursary scholarships, we have lots and lots. NSCC gives up to $5 million in scholarships. Typically, once you're accepted into NSCC, any program at all, it's the place where you want to look for all of our students' scholarships and bursaries is our student awards portal. The kind of breakdown is you go in there initially, you fill out your basic information about yourself, the program you're in, your interests. It's kind of like a questionnaire to get you started in our student awards portal, and it will automatically apply you to scholarships that you're eligible for. So sometimes they're very program specific, or sometimes they have to do with where you come from, so on and so forth. But then I always tell students to go back into that portal and to look at the long list of scholarships that we actually have at NSCC and see which ones that you may be eligible for. So there, right now we do a big haul for spring awards, which if you're successful in that spring awards application, that money is funded for your September start. And then once you're started in September, we do fall awards, and fall awards, as you can imagine, kind of go into your second semester for funding. So two big hauls of scholarships and bursaries, lots of opportunities for students. And I always tell students, again, to go back into that portal and get yourself familiar. And it takes sometimes it takes a little bit of reading to see if you're eligible and what scholarships are out there. But yeah, many scholarships. These are some of the questions that recruitment can answer afterwards as well if we miss anything. But yeah, scholarships and bursaries are for students. As soon as you get accepted into NSCC, you have access to that student awards portal. And the next steps or the process for students who are here, domestic students, apply online for $40. And if you are accepted, or if your application is chosen, we ask you to deposit the $200 that will save your seat and say that yes, you are coming to this program. If students don't pay that $200 or don't save their seat, and then that deadline hits, we offer that seat up to the next person. So we always make sure to have that conversation and to save your seat. For most of our September starts for the program, that first payment of your actual tuition is due August 1st or August 2nd. One of those two deadlines usually each year. And if you have a student loan that you're waiting for, or if you have funding that you know is coming to your account, but you don't have it at the time of that deadline, August 1st, August 2nd, have a conversation with our financial team, and they can kind of set you up with a payment plan, or know the student loan and NSCC application kind of works hand in hand. We have access, and we'll see that you've applied to student loan and you're still waiting for it. But if you don't pay that fee on the August 1st or August 2nd deadline, then again, NSCC offers that seat up to the next person who's applied to that program, if it's a program that is waitlisted. I think we had many. If there are any questions that we've missed throughout the process, feel free to send me an email. If it's very specific to you and something that maybe I didn't bring up to talk about, because this video is recorded and is uploaded to YouTube afterwards, feel free to send me an email, or to send our recruitment team an email, and those folks are there to answer those questions as well. And I want to give a huge shout out to Dean and to Mike for taking your time out this afternoon to answer in depth, preparing the slides, and going a bit beyond what our website says about our programs. As you can tell, we have two amazing instructors. If you guys are interested in these programs, who you get to work alongside with, who have the experience and can kind of refer you to jobs. They are folks that are hiring. And I feel like you guys are all in the right spot by being here today. If you're back watching this video again, March 25th, do you guys have any final thoughts before we close out? You guys have said a lot, and I've taken a lot of your time tonight.
My main thought is just, if anyone is interested, definitely look into it. It's usually a great experience. Certainly both of these classes, one of the things we didn't mention is how tight knit the class ends up being. They meet together. They're there for this intense program. You got these 20 or so students in the same classroom usually every day, except for the online classes. And they tend to be like, they help each other a lot. Like in the last 2 years, I look back at those students, they still stay in touch with each other. They're still referring each other to jobs and positions at wherever they happen to be. And it really is quite a wonderful experience. So if you're interested in something like AI or full stack, it really is, it is a great deal, I would say. And it is a really nice size class and works out really well. So getting it done in 1 year. And I guess the last thing is just, if any of you come, I look forward to meeting you in the future.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would say we mentioned we were capped at 20 students in both programs, but Dean and I would both be happy to be full next year and have the full slate of 20 students in there. So more than happy to see you in September.
Awesome, guys. You guys have been great. I really, really do appreciate it. Don't tell the other folks and the other programs I work with, but this has been my favorite session. I hope you guys have a great night. And
All right.
everyone else that's watching for whatever time it is, I hope you guys enjoy your day.
Bye, folks.
Take care, guys.